and that's okay. I messaged 2 people about LSF. I messaged Nick Polam and I messaged Asmongold. I asked both of them. I was like, hey, I don't really use Reddit a whole lot, but like, do you think it's a good idea or a bad idea if I respond to a post and be like, oh, I understand where you guys are coming from. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. I should have definitely like spoken about it differently. And both of them reassured me that it's a good idea to not, because I know they're like, they're Reddit people. So I was like, they both said, they're both very nice, and they both said, yeah, don't respond. It's not a good idea. Yes, Asmongold and Nick Polam, because I know those are like the 2 people that I know like participate in Reddit stuff a lot. So I got some.
There is a quiet humiliation in being misunderstood by strangers. Is not the humiliation of guilt or of error, but of misperception. The sense that your likeness has been taken, flattened, and distributed until it no longer belongs to you. In the world of streaming and social media, that humiliation has become a condition of living. One can perform joy, generosity, even transparency, but none of it will survive the translation into content. Every gesture becomes data, every word becomes evidence. For Valkyrie, the woman whose name had come to occupy an empire of pixels and fandom, this was not a new realization, but a familiar wound reopened. She had long known the cruelty of the audience that both sustains and consumes her. But this time, the context was heavier, entangled with the man she loved and the impossible expectations that come with being a woman who stands near power. The story began not with her, but with a sound, the high, frightened yelp of a dog. A noise captured, clipped, and replayed until it became a symbol. The sound was said to come from a home of Hasan Piker, the man known as Hasanabi to millions, a commentator who speaks with the fury of conviction and the poise of someone accustomed to being judged. The moment, small as it was, became a Rorschach test for the internet. Those who already distrusted him saw cruelty. Those who adored him saw misinterpretation. In the middle stood Valkyrie, whose name was invoked not for what she had done, but for what she represented, the partner, the woman nearby, the voice of reason or complicity depending on whom you asked. She did what many might do in her place. She spoke. She defended. She said that the assumptions swirling around her boyfriend were misplaced, that he loved his dog, that the people twisting the story were feeding on outrage. But in the world she inhabits, speaking does not silence the storm, it stokes it. Her words became another thread in the vast weave of Reddit, dissected, mocked, interpreted. Soon, the conversation shifted from the accusation against Hasan to the judgment of her tone, her phrasing, her choice of empathy. This is how the modern discourse functions, not through events, but through reverberations of reaction. Valkyrie's initial statement was never just about the dog. It was about gender and loyalty, about the unspoken expectation that a woman must walk the narrow corridor between devotion and distance. To defend a man accused of cruelty is to risk inheriting that cruelty by association. To remain silent is to seem complicit through omission. There is no right choice, only a series of performances that will each be weighed and found wanting. In that spiral of judgment, she reached out to others, men who, in this ecosystem, represented different poles of the digital culture. One, Nick, a friend, someone she trusted to translate the coded language of Reddit's unpredictable crowd. The other, Asmongold, a name wrapped in history, an adversary to her partner, but a veteran of the same theater. Their presence in her mind and in her messages said something profound about the nature of the internet's moral economy, that advice and truth no longer come from intimacy, but from proximity to the algorithm. She asked not what was true, but what was wise. And wisdom, in this place, means understanding what the crowd wants from you. Both men, each in their own way, advised restraint. They told her that to speak again would be futile, that the crowd does not seek understanding, only confirmation. And so she held her tongue, even as she seethed with the knowledge that silence would not be interpreted as grace, but as guilt. What does it mean to seek counsel in a world where reputation functions as both currency and curse? Valkyrie's decision to reach out to Nick and Asmongold reveals the complicated social geography of the influencer world. Alliances and rivalries exist side by side, stitched together by the fragile thread of mutual visibility. She asked an enemy of her partner for guidance, not because she doubted loyalty, but because in this digital republic, moral authority does not belong to the virtuous. It belongs to the visible. Her instinct to consult those who know Reddit also exposes something more tragic about the age we live in. That communities built on discourse have transformed into markets of outrage, that understanding the mob has become more important than understanding oneself. Reddit, like Twitter or YouTube, has evolved into a mirror that does not reflect, it distorts. It gives people the illusion of participation in collective reasoning, but what it actually offers is performance. The discourse becomes a ritual of purification, a space where participants can wash themselves of boredom and complicity by naming villains, condemning sinners, and manufacturing redemption arcs. When Valkyrie defended Hasan, she appealed to reason. She believed that logic and moral clarity could cut through the noise. She argued that the fixation on this one incident was misplaced, that there were, as she said, bigger issues demanding the public's fury, the ongoing catastrophe of Palestine and Israel among them. Her words were not meant to dismiss suffering, they were meant to contextualize. But the internet does not forgive context. To remind people of proportion, to suggest that their outrage might be misdirected, is to violate the unspoken rule of digital morality. Never interrupt the catharsis of anger. In Coates's world, this would be the moment where the personal and the structural meet, the realization that an individual's struggle for dignity is always entangled with the broader forces of history and power. Valkyrie's impulse to redirect attention to global suffering was, at its core, an attempt to reclaim perspective. Yet in doing so, she stumbled into another trap, the hierarchy of empathy that governs online activism. People do not measure outrage by scale or gravity, but by intimacy and visibility. A distant war, even one drenched in injustice, cannot compete with the immediacy of a viral clip that makes us feel something raw and personal. The cruel irony is that both forms of outrage stem from the same root, a yearning for moral agency in a world that feels beyond control. When users on Reddit tear into a streamer for a perceived act of cruelty, they are, in their own way, performing the same gesture as those who tweet about bombings and blockades. They are reaching for a sense of righteousness, trying to locate themselves on the right side of history. But history on the internet refreshes every 30 seconds. Valkyrie's statement about bigger issues was read not as a plea for perspective, but as deflection. The tone police arrived. They dissected every syllable, every hesitation, treating her voice as a confession. And in that process, the entire drama became detached from the dog, from Hasan, even from her. It became a self-sustaining ecosystem of moral performance, each participant feeding on the last. The most haunting aspect of her situation is how predictable it all was. She knew, before she spoke, that she would be misread. She knew, before she reached out to her peers, that silence might be wiser.